The Terrorism Task Force in 1992 was more or less an intelligence gathering squad and had not gone out to kick any doors or chase any bad guys down, maybe in its entire history. But February of 1993, the first attack in World Trade Center occurred. The Trade Center attack was seen as a criminal act and treated as such. There just simply was not a belief that the different Islamic groups out there that are fundamentalists would ever sort of work together in order to achieve a common goal of attacking the West and its interest in ridding the Middle East of Western intervention. We did the investigation. We found the people who were responsible. We put them in jail, and that was the end of the case. The information and intelligence that could be gleaned from that would have certainly helped our efforts throughout the 90s simply sat in files. It was never analyzed, never brought together and synthesized into some sort of product where we could use it to help us move into a preemptive sort of posture in the 90s so that we could actually stop terrorism. On a near perfect visibility day in the skies, September 11th, that was as clear as any single day that you could imagine in New York City. I go to the office talking to a New York State trooper, and the building shakes, and there's just this extremely loud metal-to-metal sound. I got curious and walked over to ask somebody what's going on, and that's when I heard for the first time that the North Tower had been hit by an airplane. We just saw a big torn hole in the side of that building and smoke pouring out of it, and you can see that there was flames inside that building. And right there in front of us, we see a large airline make a very hard turn and come straight into the south end of the South Tower. That moment erased all doubts in anyone's head that this was a deliberate act of terrorism. The word came back to the task force that we were establishing a command post right there at the base of the World Trade Center. And as we began to leave the building to head to that command post, I remember so vividly seeing what I thought was a large object sort of push away from the North Tower, right from the lower part of the gaping hole that was burning. And I waited to hear what I thought would be a loud metallic sound of a hard piece of metal hitting cement, but what I actually heard was a very muffled sound of a body hitting the ground and basically disintegrating. And at that moment, I realized what I saw was the end of someone's life who did nothing more than go to work that day. And it's something that'll stay there forever. We were inside the building where the command post was being formed. Several task force members were on the outside, and they as I turned around and began to walk out of the building, several of those task force members at a full sprint come running back at me. And I knew it was something serious because the building began to shake, and I just turned around and ran. And there was nowhere to run in that building. And we ended up hitting a staircase and going down into a basement portion of this building. And so we turned around and went back up the stairs to that lobby area. And I looked out of the glass doors, and it was midnight. I could see no sunlight. I couldn't see daylight. All I saw was darkness. A friend of mine, NYPD cop Danny, says, "Steve, bro, I think that tower just collapsed." And so I walked out through those doors and into that dust cloud that was still extremely thick. You could see maybe 10 or 20 feet in front of you. And I heard this high whining sound of the first responders' alarms. It just permeated the entire area. I mean, you couldn't really hear anything else but those alarms going off. And I realized that, man, that tower did collapse. And with it, it took a bunch of courageous individuals who charged to the base of that building to help. And they were lying there a block and a half away from me, and I couldn't even see to help. I couldn't do anything, and I was being pulled away to go in the opposite direction, which is not what I wanted to do. But the North Tower coming down was now a reality. We knew that if that South Tower collapsed, that the North Tower was probably going to collapse too. And so I was forced to move to safety while others sat there and died. As that day unfolded, and I began to see things that would stick with me for the rest of my life. The biggest emotion that stands out to this day is the helplessness that I belong to a joint terrorism task force, and a terrorist act happened 4 blocks from where I work every day. And not only could I not prevent that, but I could do little to nothing to help the victims.